Cool. Hello, everyone. So thanks for joining us for our September AMA, releases and deployments. So don't have any questions in the agenda at the moment, but is there anything anybody would like to ask us about or hear about or anything like that?
I have a generic question. I think we cut each other off. Do you want to go first?
No, please go on. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a generic question about deployments. I've been reading a lot more about it, but I'm still newer in the organization. I'm curious as to how much the Terraform integration matters in terms of structuring customer deals. So is this something that customers care a lot about, or does it depend on their environment, or like, so it's like our bread and butter is like CI/CD, DevSecOps, things like that. But Terraform integration in particular, like, is that something that our customers use a lot, or is it like 10% of them use it?
That is a great question, and not one I know the answer to. Draft, do you know?
Yeah, as far as I know, there aren't that many customers that are using it yet. I mean, based on the data that I've seen, because this is backed with object storage, and it just doesn't look like it's a popular feature yet. We aren't using it internally or dogfooding it as far as I know either, but it's something that we've been looking into.
So if they're not using our Terraform integration, are people just stopping at the end of the CI functionality at GitLab? Or is it like they're using the script field in your GitLab CI.yaml to like invoke Ansible and then deploy using that or something like that? Like, so how are people using deployments in the absence of Terraform then?
Sure, yeah. So we do use Terraform internally, and the way that how it like links to our deployments is that we have two pipelines, one for deployment and one for like provisioning infrastructure. So we have a Terraform pipeline that provisions infrastructure. It doesn't use the Terraform integration of GitLab. It's just basically, because it was built before that was available, it's just a CI pipeline that runs Terraform, Terraform plan, Terraform apply. And then after the infrastructure is provisioned, then we deploy to it separately using either an Ansible pipeline for our virtual machines, or we also have a Kubernetes pipeline that uses Helm.
Yeah, thanks for that clarity. I think I didn't speak, like I could have cleared up my question. I'm wondering that if people aren't using the Terraform integration, are they not using GitLab for deploys? Or are they just like, building out their own stuff using like the script parameter?
I assume the latter. Like I assume that people are using GitLab for deploys, just like we're using it for deploys, but they're just using the flexibility of CI within GitLab to define their own pipeline, a deploy pipeline that just does whatever needs to be done. That could be running Terraform, it could be invoking Ansible, it could be running Helm.
And just for a little bit of background for myself, I wonder what percentage of our customers are using Kubernetes. Is it like 10%, or is it because of that integration it's really popular with our customer base?
I would say it's much, if you mean like using Kubernetes integration for GitLab, as in connecting GitLab, their project to a Kubernetes cluster, or do you mean just using Kubernetes in general?
Let's say their applications are running on Kubernetes versus they're running like GitLab runners on Kubernetes.
If how many customers have applications run on Kubernetes? I assume like a lot of people are running their applications on Kubernetes. I don't think a lot of people are using the integration to Kubernetes just because it doesn't offer a lot of people the flexibility that they need. And I think there are like a lot of outstanding issues with regard to that. But as far as customers using Kubernetes, we don't really have a good way of tracking that. Like we'd have to inspect everyone's CI pipeline to see if that was the case.
Thank you.
And just to probably add a little bit more context for you as well, and Christopher, so one interesting thing at the moment in the way we have in GitLab is delivery is our sort of remit is around releasing of GitLab. And at the moment, we do quite a lot of that with sort of self-built tooling. Part of that is the complexity of how GitLab is and how the releases need to work. So a sort of like future goal will be to build all that, or to work with the releases team to actually build this stuff into the GitLab product. So actually at the moment, quite a lot of the tools we use to release GitLab are not in the product. So hopefully in the future, they'll converge together.
Thank you.
Cool. And thanks very much for asking the question. Felipe.
Yeah, thanks. I was wondering if there was any big change inside, anything that would affect workflows or anything that you should anticipate. And I'm sorry if it has been shared already somewhere in the links over there. I'm a bit lazy here.
No, that's great. Thank you so much for asking. So within delivery, we've got loads of stuff going on that we're very excited about. So we've got obviously the Kubernetes migration, which is exciting from a kind of GitLab point of view. It will be exciting for customers once we've got things up and running. That's kind of the point of doing the work. And it also gives us great benefits from sort of like a release perspective as well, and sort of site stability. On the releases side, at the moment, we're working on two things that are really exciting for us. So one is around security releases. And we've made sort of recent lots of sort of improvements to the process around how we create these security releases and how we can do that alongside deploying to GitLab.com. So making great progress there, which is very exciting to us. And also we see great benefits there, right? It's a little bit more invisible, say, to customers, but where you end up with GitLab.com being much more secure than it previously was, we're able to get security vulnerabilities fixed out much more quickly, which is exciting. And we're also at the moment working on something which is called assisted deployment. So we have a couple of steps in our daily deployment process where we make like manual decisions, and we're putting in automation to remove that so it becomes much more reliable. We'll be using a lot more metrics and sort of system health checks to actually assess whether now is a good time to do a deployment, and is this particular build a good one to be pushing out to production. So once we have that stuff in place, that will also be the sort of time when we can begin speeding things up. So we're releasing pretty frequently. So GitLab.com is it's getting maybe 2 or 3 deployments a day. But we really need to have more automation in place to make that much faster and safer as well. So all of that stuff's in progress, which should be pretty exciting. And it means that we're well on track for later this year, increasing the number of deployments we can do each day as well.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks so much for asking. Cool. Has anyone else got questions or any queries or anything that we can help explain away?
Or if there's no more question, we still have some questions about.
Yeah,
you mentioned that we have improved a lot the release process, especially when it comes to security. Is there anything else that is remaining to improve? I mean, do we still have some roadblocks? I understand that we improved a lot the process and it's a lot faster than it used to be, but is there a next step to that? That's my question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've made huge progress. So I think we still have quite a lot of things that we want to improve. So at the moment, we have been validating kind of the approach, and we have several different types of deployment that we do. So we have like daily deployments, which are we call them auto deploys to GitLab.com. We have quite a lot of tooling and validation around those. We also do the monthly release on the 22nd to the self-hosted customers. And then we have security releases and patch releases around those. So we're making huge progress on all of these, but we're certainly by no means do we have like all the tooling and automated sort of checks in place around all of those different releases. So the release managers still have quite a involved job of, there's tools to do most of the steps for each of those releases, but it's a very manual process to make the decision points around them, coordinate them, and make sure we're doing things in the right place. And as I mentioned, like an awful lot of this stuff still happens outside of the product. So we're working closely with releases to actually also find ways that we can, like, ideally we build a lot of this tooling into GitLab so that customers can also benefit from the same tools. So we've got lots of work going on there in terms of actually releasing things. And then the other side is about making it safer. So at the moment, we push things out to production, and particularly on the auto deploy side at the moment, we push things out and we rely on, usually it's the SRE on call or other people to identify, like keep an eye on metrics and spot when things aren't going well. That should all be automated, right? So we should have safer checks in place to know this deployment, like gradually roll it out, be monitoring the system and know when we should stop out and when we should roll that back to make the site more stable. So that stuff's in progress. And actually, Alessio, do you want to give us a sort of update on how you see that like working for us in the next few months?
Sure, Amy. So basically what we have in place at the moment and we are kind of testing is this new metrics. So basically we have metrics at the moment. They are the one that are paging our on calls. They are designed for not waking up people in at night. But what we want is more sensitive metrics that just prevent an automated deployment to start if the system is not, let's say, close to perfect. So right now we are kind of validating this metrics and we are adding this on top of our automated checks for, it's still a manual promotion, but it will also add this check. And then we will start moving toward more automation around this. So we will add baking time to our canary deployment so that, let's say, after 1 hour of a release running on canary, if the system is okay and also the new metrics are okay, we can start rolling out the deployment. So the basic idea is that what we want to do is having hands-off deployment and notifying people involved if something goes wrong instead of just having to babysit the pipeline. Because what we're doing right now is we have to closely check everything and make sure that the system is behaving correctly. And we want the system to self-check and just involve people when they are needed.
Very insightful. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, thanks so much for asking. Cool. Has anybody else got any questions they would like to ask us about? No? Okay, in which case, thanks so much for everyone who joined and thanks for all the questions. Hopefully we'll see you next month. Thanks a lot. Bye.